Hey guys, Matt here. Welcome to Learn to Discern. Today we're going to be talking about church discipline in the Bible. Now, before you click away from this video, I truly believe if you stick around to the end, you will come to have a new appreciation for church discipline and see it as a wonderful and amazing thing. But first, if you'd like to help promote sound Christian teaching here on YouTube, please go ahead and take a second now to subscribe to my channel, and thank you in advance. Okay, guys, so in order for us to see church discipline as a good and gracious gift from God, it's going to require us looking at the entirety of Matthew 18. Now, I'm not going to read the entire chapter, but at least understanding some of the context that gets us down to our passage dealing with church discipline. So if you look at the beginning of Matthew 18, the disciples come to Jesus and they're asking him about who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus responds in verse 5, "Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." So Jesus is talking about one of these little ones. That's not just referring to young children, it is talking about believers. And so Jesus is saying if you cause a believer to sin, it would be better for you to have a great millstone fastened around your neck and you'd be thrown into the sea. So obviously a big deal. So in the next section, Jesus is talking about temptations to sin. So temptations that could come against true believers. So that leads us down to the parable of the lost sheep. I think when many people think about the parable of the lost sheep, which is recorded both in Matthew and in Luke, they tend to think about it as an unbeliever who is wandering away and Jesus is pursuing them, or God is pursuing them for salvation. And in the book of Matthew, that would be the correct context. But, however, in Matthew 18, we're going to see that the sheep that wanders away is not an unbeliever. It is, in fact, a believer. So we see that in verse 10. "See that you do not despise one of these little ones." Remember, that's a term referring to believers. "For I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go in search of the one that went astray? And if he finds it, truly I say to you, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that never went astray. So it is not the will of my Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish." So again, we see that this is referring to a believer who is wandering away into sin. So in this story, the believer is wandering away into sin, and God is going to pursue that believer in their sin to bring them back in. Now, that is the context that leads us into our passage about church discipline, because what I want you to see is that church discipline is the means that God uses to reel in that lost sheep, to reel in a believer who has wandered off into sin. He is going to use church discipline in order to do so. So we see that starting in verse 15. "If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them." Now, certainly it goes without saying that church discipline is the sort of thing that many people can abuse or get wrong. You can approach somebody with not a gentle, gracious spirit, right? You can skip the steps and think that you're just going to do your own thing, or you can just ignore it altogether and say, we're not going to do church discipline. So there are plenty of ways that people could get this wrong. And the point of this video is actually not to even go into the details and the specifics of that. What I want you to see is, again, this is a good and gracious gift. Sin is a real problem in the lives of believers, and it's a terrible thing that we face temptation to sin, but the reality is it does come. Sometimes we wander away. We are like the sheep who goes running away, and God uses church discipline to bring us back, to rescue the sheep that has wandered away. And so I hope that we all will see church discipline as a wonderful thing. We should all have a desire in our lives that there will be people who will hold us accountable, who will lovingly and gently confront us in our sin. And if we are being stubborn and unrepentant, that more people will come who are concerned about the well-being of our soul and who will confront us in these things, in our sin. And so church discipline absolutely is a gracious gift from God. I hope that your church practices church discipline. I would say the vast majority of churches, in my experience, do not. And I think this is one of the signs of a very healthy church, a church that does church discipline and does it, of course, correctly in a loving spirit in hopes of restoration, because that's the whole point. If you're confronted in your sin and you acknowledge and you confess and you say, please forgive me, you repent, it's over, okay? Like, it's over. It doesn't go any farther than that. But this is a very, very good thing. And so I hope this gives you an appreciation for church discipline. All right, guys, I hope this teaching was a blessing to you today. If it was and you want to get this content out to more people, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, please remember that you can partner together with me financially in ministry, as I have profiles on both Ko-fi and Patreon. I will put links to them both down below in the description. You can give a one-time gift or sign up for monthly recurring donations. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, God bless.